Hi, Mr. Rabelais here again with a homework helper for decimals. Now the thing we have to remember about decimals is they're the same thing as fractions. Let me show you what I'm talking about. See, we've got this these couple of problems here, and it shows us a picture. And it says the model is shaded to represent 2 3/10. Okay, that's the fraction form that we're looking for, but it also gives us a picture. But we can write that from a fraction, from a mixed number, because it's got whole numbers and fractions, and we can write it in a decimal. I don't know if you can see this that far down, but we'll move this up a little bit. There we go. That's maybe a little bit better. We can see the decimals down here. So the thing that we want you to do is we want to make sure that you do label like you always do. Here's 1 whole, here's 2 wholes, and here's 1, 2, 3 out of, and it's 3 out of 10. So it's 2 and 3 out of 10. Well, it shows us that up here, but we were labeling to make sure we're going to get that correctly. Now we need to know how to write that as a decimal. Well, you know, for adults, we think that's easy. It's 2 and 3/10, so we know exactly how to write that. But place values to the right of the decimal are brand new to 4th graders. Let me show you what we do to try to get the kids kind of over the hump. We'll go to the next page here, have a little bit of room to write. The first thing we have to teach them is the place value names. Now we've studied place value to the left of the decimal all the way through the 100 million, so that should be okay for them. What they need to know is that there's another set of numbers over here that are decimals, and they have place values also. And this place value to the right of the decimal is the tenths. And this place value is called the hundredths. And they both end in TH. Tenths and hundredths. And it's like dimes and pennies is another way to do it. In fact, decimals are really synonymous with money. It's maybe the easiest way to help kids relate to something that they know about. Reach back into their minds, find something they know about, and bring them back forward into a concept that you're trying to teach them. And that's what we have to do with decimals. Now the hardest thing for the kids to remember is, as these numbers change, how to say that number. Well, the decimal says and, A-N-D. So this is 1 and 74 hundredth. And here's a key tip for decimals. The name of the decimal number is where the number stops, what place value it stops. Remember, if we're talking about to the left of the decimal, if we're talking about 34 million, we start saying 34 million where the number starts. Well, on the right of the decimal, it's opposite. We say the name where the number stops. So if it stops in the hundredths column, then we say hundredths. And that's as far as we go in 4th grade. It's two places to the right of the decimal. But it would be the same thing if you were talking about thousandths or 10,000ths all the way to the right of the decimal. So this number is said 1 and 74 hundredths because it ends in the hundredths place value. This is 2 and 5 hundredths. This is 1 and 70 hundredths, which we also know is the same as 2 and 7 tenths. That is a really tough concept to get past with kids if there's a trailing 0 there because they think that it's worth more. Because on the left of the decimal, a 1 and a 10, obviously it is a bigger and much different number. But to the right of the decimal, you can actually drop that 0. It's meaningless for the most part on using 2-digit decimals. So 1 and 70 hundredths is the same as 2 and 7 tenths. And then we have 4 and 2 tenths. But again, the key is say the name of the decimal where the number ends. Whichever place value the number ends is the name of that particular decimal. Remember that the decimal point itself says and this is a whole number. So you know that there's a relationship between decimals and fractions. That's where we grab the kids from fractions, we bring them over to decimals, and then we teach them that decimals have some unique names and some unique rules. So think about decimals like fractions, think about pictures, think about labeling, all the things that you always do, and just remember that those place values are tenths and hundredths, and to say the decimal name wherever the number stops. If it stops in the tenths, it's 1 and 7 tenths or 2 and 7 tenths. If it goes to the hundredths, then it's 2 and 75 hundredths. This is Mr. Rabelais, it's your homework helper for decimals.